What's up, all you heavy metal misfits and horror punk rockers? Welcome to another episode of the Talk Louder podcast, where we geek out on all things rock and roll. Hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel. Leave us your likes and comments. You can also leave likes and comments on our Facebook page. Follow us on iTunes, Spotify, Instagram at talklouder_podcast. And of course, our website, talklouderpodcast.com, where you'll find links to our merch and also our previous 100 plus episodes now. I am Metal Dave Glessner, along with my co-host Jason McMaster, and today's guest is one of the long-standing frontrunners of modern-day shock rock. We have Wednesday 13 on the Talk Louder podcast today, and man, what a treat. That guy has a long history, and he shared some great stories with us, and I know you have some
I like the guy
him.
a lot. The guy he's super chilly. And he's from the South. A lot of people don't realize he's from the Carolinas, and he's
North
got
Carolina.
that twang, and he talks like this a little bit, and he's just like, you don't know that when you just hear his music or see photos and videos. If you don't know that about him, then you talk to him, he's like, hey man, let's hang out. So it's fucking awesome that he's just so real and chilly and fun to talk to. And
Yeah, he's got a long history, and we didn't get into a lot of it. I hope to have him back on this.
well, we'll just have part 2. Yeah, we'll have part
2.
Part 13.
Yeah, it'll
Right?
be an ongoing series until we hit 13. There you go.
Well, he was right in there nerding out with us the whole time. He could be honorary third nerd.
Absolutely. He's here today to tell us about his new album, Horrifier, that drops October 7th. So we get into that. We get into as much of his history as we can. And actually, you know, we say it all the time on this show. We just like to have a conversation. And today truly was just a great conversation. Just 3 nerds, as you said, just talking about rock and roll. And man, he had some great stuff to tell us. So,
Well, before we kind of get started with Wednesday 13, I just want to say a couple things. Check out his new record, Horrifier, drops in October. Check out the new video for
You're So Hideous.
You're So Hideous.
Yes.
And let's get going here with our guest today, Wednesday 13 on the Talk Louder podcast.
Yeah, so you were telling us you're bouncing back from the COVID lockdown, just finished up a tour and just getting ready to start one. Run us through the latest happening.
We did our first tour out of COVID back in March, April, May. That was like 6 weeks in the States, and then it did so well. We're doing like the second leg of that. That kicks off September 4th. That's 6 weeks in the States. And then we go over to the UK and Europe supporting Ministry. So that's going to be an off tour.
I saw I saw all of that posted somewhere around the time. Well, I know it was in the press kit, but I saw it posted somewhere, and I was impressed. I was like, wow. So the rest of the year and on into 23, this guy's going to be going nuts all over the place. So you're throwing some of your shit over here. You're throwing some of your shit over here. You keep throwing shit. I like it. But,
I've been doing that for years, though. I mean, COVID was the only time I'd taken a break since, forever. Like when I met you, Jason, I was, coming through Texas the first time. Like we used to tour like 10 months out of the year. We'd do 3 times in the States, 2 times in the UK, twice in Europe, go to Australia, go to Japan, all like in a year. That's kind of what I was used to.
That's more than most major bands do.
Yeah, and we did that for a while. I also put a record out almost every year between 2008 up till until I signed with like Nuclear Blast back in 2017. Then we did the every 2-year deal. But yeah, that's why that's why I'm on my 9th record.
Yeah.
Right. So
constantly
unstoppable forces.
Yeah, just keep it going, and no one can knock it down. And that was the thing we had so much momentum going. And then COVID comes and just, knocks us all down. So
this is probably on, not to switch gears too abruptly, this is probably on David's list, but I'm going to go ahead and throw this in the mix.
Mm-hmm.
Your band is pretty much from Texas.
Yeah, we're friends with all your band.
You stole me best mates. You got all the bad mofos from SA, man.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. I lucked out, and not only are they cool musicians, they're just cool dudes.
That's what I mean. Yeah,
I lucked out. I've got a good group of guys. Not only are they good musicians, they're just, and that's what makes it on the road. That's why I'm able to go and tour and do all these things I say I do, because I actually have guys I like to tour with. And it took a long time, because when I found the San Antonio guys, when I found Ramon, and I found Jason, or Shapes, whatever everyone knows him as, and Troy, they started playing with me. Like Ramon's been my buddy since 2006. He was like my guitar tech for a while, which is the dumbest thing, because he was the best musician on our stage, and he's tuning my fucking guitar for me.
Standing over there on the side of the stage, just like being a cool guy, and you in the back of your head going, my guitar tech is more talented than the motherfuckers on the stage. Yeah.
But that changed, and then like a few years later, he and I we were playing together, and then we were in Murderdolls together, and that's why I've been able to do it and not get frustrated, is because I've got a good group of guys. And I was trying to count it yesterday. I was like, how many people have been in Wednesday 13? I was like, well, there's only been one me, so I know there's one there. Then I started counting, like, how many? I think there's been 7 guitar players. I think there's been 4 to 5 bass players. We're starting with a new drummer on this tour, a guy I'm super excited about, a guy named Mike Dupke. He was in Wasp for like 10 years. Yeah. He and I jammed together at some local thing here in Los Angeles, and I just remember we played like a Wasp song and a White Zombie song, and I remember looking over my shoulder going, all right, I got to remember this guy. He's good.
Yeah.
Cool.
I've known Troy for about 35 years.
Yeah.
I grew up with him in San Antonio, and I remember him back in his days in Alienation, when they were one of the major players on the San Antonio scene.
So you guys met in the hospital on the day you were born.
Pretty much. Yeah. Speaking of days you were born, Wednesday, happy belated birthday. You just had a birthday a couple days ago, right?
Thank you.
Happy 21st.
I know, right? I just turned 46, so I caught up. I'm catching up with the rest of the guys. We got one younger guy in the band, our guitar player, Jack. I think he's 40 or 41. He doesn't even know. He had a birthday one time, and he didn't know how old he was. I'm like, that's
one way. That's one way to do it.
I don't know. Am I 40? Am I 39? I'm like,
who cares?
Who cares?
Who cares how old you are? Can you rock? That's all I care about.
Tell me real quick how Troy joined your band, because I've been friends with him for a long, long time, but I've been living in Austin for the past 27 years. So he and I don't see each other as much as I'd like. But I was very proud of him and thrilled when he got the gig with you, and he's been with you for a number of years now. Yeah. So tell me how you guys crossed paths and how he ended up in your band.
Well, basically, Wednesday 13 was touring up until Murderdolls did the second album in 2010. So we did that for like and in that lineup, Ramon was in that lineup. Our guitar player, Jack, was in that lineup. And Jason Shakes, the drummer, was in Murderdolls on that lineup too. So when Murderdolls came off tour, Joey went back doing Slipknot. I'm like, all right, I got to do Wednesday again. I'm like, I'm just going to keep using these guys. And I'm like, but we didn't have a bass player. So Jason and Ramon were both like, hey, our buddy Troy will do it. So I remember Troy sending me a picture of him trying to look cool in his bathroom, like.
Is that even possible?
You look cool. I was like, you know what? You look fine.
If you can look cool in the bathroom,
exactly. So he sent me a text that's like, "Yo, Dub, this is Troy. I'm interested in the gig. Here's a picture of me. Any other stuff you need, let me know." And I'm like, "Cool, they're vouching for you." And ever since then, he's been the dude. And I love touring with him. He's the best. He's like our he's like our special gift on the bus. Like every tour I find somebody. I'm going to tell you guys this story because this is a great story whether you know Troy or not. But this is just how we get on tour. So the last tour before COVID, Troy starts the tour. Everybody, we've had a couple months off, so we all talking to each other. How you doing? How's it going? How's your kid? How's your wife? How's this? Blah, blah, blah. Here's my new jacket. Oh, I got this. So Troy got a new pair of shoes. He wanted everybody to see his new pair of shoes. And they weren't anything that fancy or anything. They were like some, I don't know, they were just like some $50 whatever, comfy shoes.
Yeah.
He was talking about them. Yeah, it's my new shoes. So about a week into the tour, me and our drummer were up in the morning early watching Leave It to Beaver and stuff. And I get my dumb ideas, and I'm like, you know what? I look down and I see Troy's new shoes are just laying there. And I'm like, here's Troy's new shoes he cares about so much.
His first mistake.
Yes. And I was like, you know what? I said, it'd be hilarious if we had like another pair of shoes just like this on the bus and like changed the sizes on them and just switched them out with him and just fucked with him. I just said it out loud. And then I'm watching like Andy Griffith. And then my drummer holds his phone up and he's like, we can order them right here. He goes, and it's a 2-for-1. And I went, oh shit. So we look at Troy's shoes, and Troy's like a 10.
Okay.
So we order a 9. And we order a 12. So we get the shoes in a couple days later, and Troy
you had them shipped to the venue.
Have them shipped to the venue.
Yep.
We get the shoes. We're hiding them in a little compartments on the bus. And Troy would wear these shoes or wear a pair of Doc Marten like boots. That was his kind of two he had. And he keep them in the hallway, so might step on them, or we always step on them. And so we'd watch Troy, and I was kind of the one that made the decision when to switch them out. We wouldn't do it all the time, but we'd watch Troy if he had like a night where he was drinking a little bit, and we were like, man, he's going to feel it tomorrow. That's when we hit him. or if we knew we had like load in and he was still asleep, we're like, let's switch those shoes out because he's going to wake up real quick, blurry eyed, not going to know. And we'd video it every time. And we did this for weeks. So he would get up and he would put on the small shoe first, and you could still fit into a size 8.
Yeah.
Or a size 9 or whatever. So he could fit into that, but you'd see him walk back and forth, and he would just start freaking out and take
Perplexed.
it off, put his boots on. And then we all started talking about, as we're driving through Colorado, oh man, the pressure up here is getting weird. I think my shoes are getting tight. I had to undo my shoes. So we all start, and he's like, the same thing happened with me. We're like, yes.
Keep it going.
We rode this thing all the way. This went through Colorado, West Coast, through Texas. We got to Atlanta. This is 3 weeks later. And we hit him. We hit him with the Bozo shoes, the 12s. And we got it on video, and he puts them on, and dude, there's a video of me in the video, and I have to get out of there because they're so big. And Troy's a little dude. It almost looked like they were as long as his legs. And he couldn't figure it out. And he was just walking back and forth, and we see him like go to his drawer, and he's like taking his blood pressure medicine. We're like, man, we've really got it. So,
started getting scared.
If anyone knows the venue in Atlanta, the Masquerade, you got to walk a mile to get to one of the stages. So he walked to the stage and
in the clown shoes.
In the clown shoes, and he realized then, hey, these are size 12. We cut the sizes out of them; they were brand new. But so he tries to pull it back on us. So he goes to our drummer, who's the sensitive guy, and he's like, hey man, I don't know, something's going on with my feet and everything. I'm going to have to go to the hospital. I'm going to have our tour manager take me to the ER. And he's like, and so he comes and tells me, and he's like, man, Troy's really freaking out. I went, no, he's not. He knows. Let's take him to the hospital.
So you took him?
No. We were prepared. I was prepared to take him to. I was going to ride it out. We were going to it was that. So either way, he figured it out 3.5 weeks later in Atlanta that he had on a size 12 pound shoe.
That's one of the best pranks I've ever heard.
Oh,
I love it.
Road prank. That's so good.
Everybody, like my girlfriend, if anybody's girlfriend came in, we would get them to start talking about their shoes being tight. I felt the pressure. I had to undo my shoes. Like it was just so bizarre.
Well, you could call it the bus is haunted.
He's gonna get me back, but that's fine. But yeah, we'll see what happens. That was just he was a good sport about it. He enjoyed it.
That's gonna be hard to beat.
That's great.
I'm just glad he didn't OD on heart medication. Blood pressure medication. All right, man, I better take about 4 of these.
He's icing his feet at the end of the night.
Shaking, shaking. Man, my feet. That
reminds me of I remember
that's good.
Years ago in San Antonio, I used to work in a sheet metal shop. And whenever a new guy would come to the warehouse, the running joke was we would tell him to go get the metal stretcher. And of course, there is no such thing. But everybody in the warehouse is in on the joke. So, of course, you point him to the farthest corner of the warehouse and go, see that guy down there in the trucker hat way down at the end? Go ask him. He had it last. And then you watch him walk all the way down there. And then you watch that guy point him to some other far away, distant place. And this guy goes around in circles. And we get him going for a good 30 minutes or something. It was great.
It's just like being in school again. We do the same pranks and stuff on each other. And
that's hilarious.
We'll never grow up. What can I say?
That's hilarious. Before we get into your new album, I wanted to talk real briefly. I met you one time in Austin. I think I was with Jason because I ended up on your tour bus, and I remember distinctly because you were wearing a Twisted Sister T-shirt. Yeah, I thought that was really cool.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, you played a Red Eye Fly, I think it was.
That's right.
And then in more recent years,
that's when I first met.
That's when I first met you. Yeah.
Okay, then that's the same night. Then
you knew that I was there, and I think you sent someone else out to get me, and I would think I was about to split.
You were, yeah.
And someone who's like, "Hey, dude, come on in here," and I was like, "Just went on the bus." Yeah, well, all right, whatever. Here we go. I was like, "Oh, awesome, new friend. I got a new friend."
Yeah, and then you dragged me along, and I loved it. Of course, I had a great time.
I think I left you there.
You might have.
Sounds about right. Yeah,
maybe I overstayed my welcome. I don't know.
Good for you.
But I remember Wednesday was wearing like this vintage Twisted Sister T-shirt. You Can't Stop Rock and Roll, I think it was. And I remember thinking, wow, that's cool because I used to have the same T-shirt. And, based on his image and everything, I wasn't sure he'd be into the whole 80s sort of the quote unquote cock rock kind of stuff. I didn't know him then. Of course, now I know better. Yeah. But then in more recent years, you came to town and you invited Jason up on stage to sing with you. And there's a photo of it somewhere that I can't find to save my life. But
I remember the photo. I don't have it either, but I remember,
it's buried. Yeah, exactly.
What song did you sing?
Rock and Roll All Night.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was end of the show, I think, or no, it wasn't. It was like mid-show. And I think that it was, you guys played, it was at that venue, used to be called Red 7.
That's correct.
Yeah, it was in the back, in the big place out back.
You got a better memory than me. I remember pieces of this. I remember something about 7 and Red, and there was a guy that worked at the venue, and he had a hot dog on this hand, and he had a hamburger on this hand. That's what I remember.
Wow, we probably know that guy.
I'm like, whoa, all right.
Well, I knew that you and Jason had some history, and I just wanted to bring up that memory because I thought it was cool that you brought him up on stage and you guys.
Yeah, I mean, anytime I've been on tour when I've been doing this, and I meet anybody that I had their albums from when I was growing up, like I had the Dangerous Toys cassette. I had a Dangerous Toys Gimme No Lip T-shirt walking into 9th grade, walking through the metalheads and them going glam, the F word.
Yeah.
So that was my thing. And, so anybody that I meet from that I grew up and listened to, I still, I've met everyone from you, Jason, to like Chip from Enough's Enough. He's become a friend.
He's a cool guy. He's a real cool guy. Yeah.
Great guy.
Yeah.
And just a lot of people, that I've just met, and everyone knows I've always, that was the thing with Murderdolls. Like when we came out, like Metal Sludge was like, that was still, no one knew who ran the site. And, I did an interview on that. And that's when I pretty much confessed all my hair metal, like stuff. Like when I was growing up, I would just literally look in the back of a Metal Edge, look on Rock on the Rise or Hit Parader or Circus, any of those upcoming thing. And anybody that I would read about that sounded cool and looked cool, there was my lunch money. I'd saved it up. There's $5 to get the demo. Here's $5 so I can hear what tough sounds like.
Sure.
Here's, everything. And that's where I spent all my money. And I had a good friend of mine. He would order the same stuff. So we'd be like, we don't have a lot of money. So why don't you order this week? You get tough and I'll order Cherry Street.
Sounds familiar.
What I mean? We would just order anything like that. And because to us, being able to, like, of course we like Motley Crue and the bigger bands, but you couldn't get to them. You could go to a club show and see Tough and meet Tough. And so they became like our bands. And that was just like that was such a cool thing. And I know I have that sort of relationship with a lot of my fans now too.
Yeah. Well, that's important. And it served you well having it be still on a, even though I feel like you're a world-renowned artist and respected, and I feel like the deal with Nuclear Blast is strong. So it's kind of like you have arrived finally with these, I don't know, I don't want to call them smaller deals, but you probably have a little better distribution. There, I'll just say that.
Yeah.
I feel like, you've been busy the whole fucking time, but I feel like on an underground level, you have respect because of the relationship that you have with your fans. And that's a big deal. So, cheers to that.
I really got to, thank you. I got to know my fans, I feel like, a lot better on the COVID 2 years off too, because I was doing so much social media and I started a fan club and this whole thing. And it was just like, I got to hear them a lot more. I got to hear the ones that complain. I got to hear the ones that love everything. But for the most part, that's why I kind of focused my record, sort of dialed it back to kind of think what the fans would want, at least the ones I engaged with.
Sure. Do you remember the last time you and I saw each other? I'm checking your memory. I'm checking your memory because a second ago you said you're going to get it.
Did I see you in LA at the show with all the bands? Was that the last time I saw you?
Cat House.
Yes.
Irvine Meadows.
Yes, that was.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. See,
now I can't tell. I know it. You did great. Here's the deal. What year was that?
That would have been.
Because I don't have any fucking idea.
It'd have been 2015, maybe.
Oh, okay.
15, no. I think.
You had it. Yeah, it was 7 years ago.
Yeah, I think someone posted a picture of it the other day, and I saw my hat, and I can just tell by hats I had during the years. Going, oh, that was my 2015 hat. Yeah, so
that's hilarious. That's hat-larious.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you weren't performing that day. You were just hanging out, seeing all the old school, man.
Yeah, man. That was all the bands that was all of them in one setting. You had the main stage, and I want to say just about everybody was there. It was Tough, Pretty Boy Floyd, Enough's Enough. Main Junkyard. Stage was Junkyard, Dangerous Toys,
Bastard Pussycat,
Saigon Kick,
Bang Tango,
Extreme. I finally saw Extreme that night. That's the first time I'd ever seen them, and they were just like the most musically talented band. It was like they just came out and was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, they don't fuck around.
They don't fuck around at all.
They're musos, and they're fucking good. Yeah.
But it was just cool.
Love them or hate them, they're fucking great.
They're great.
Yeah.
They're so good. You have to get, man,
Yeah.
those guys are good.
You did mention a few. It's not something just to like nerd out. Dave, you realize that Wednesday could be an honorary member of the nerd team that it does make up the Talk Louder podcast.
Yeah. That's
welcome guest nerd Wednesday 13.
Yeah,
Here's the deal. Here's the deal is I feel like you've already mentioned them, but I don't think that there was too many bands that were not at least from LA County, Orange County, Los Angeles area, or California. Extremes from Boston, Toys from Texas. You mentioned someone a minute ago that's not from. It was basically a bunch of LA bands, Hollywood bands.
Kick, Florida, Extreme, Boston.
That's right.
Yeah. So
there wasn't many bands that weren't from the California area. So I thought that's what made it mostly cool was and more reason to call that gig a cat house reunion kind of thing, right?
Well, yeah, because you can see all the other bands for the most part on the Strip once a month. Like, but I've been living in LA now since 2010, and I mean I've got to see just about everybody now. I've seen every band from Love Hate to Vain to Wasp to just I've seen everything now, and then I get to go out to that show and see some of the bands that I didn't get to see. So I've pretty much seen just about every band off my list that I had on my wall at some point.
I feel like it's the really, and maybe you can chime in on this and like kind of slap my hand and tell me though that's not correct because you've been out there for so long. It seems to me that the whiskey, I mean the Rainbow's still there, of course.
Right.
I don't really know of much of anything else there in that, part of town that is as legendary as those two places. And none of them are there anymore. It's kind of a question. You can tell me, well, this is still there, that's still there. But it seems to me, and I'll finish with this, that still to this day, any of the bands that had any clout at all that made the history books, I'll just say,
yes,
their shows are still continuing to become legendary at the Whiskey for obvious reasons. We started here, we're old people, and we still play here, and we're still here, and thank God y'all are still here, blah, blah, blah. Does it seem like that kind of a vibe?
The Whiskey is the only place that still has that vibe. The Whiskey, because you can play there, then you can walk right up to the Rainbow, and the Roxy's still there, but the Roxy occasionally gets good shows. The Key Club, which used to be Gazzari's, and then the Key, that's like a night dance club now, so that's not even there.
Right.
But you're right. I mean, there's bands that can play like from the Metal Years movie. That band Odin can still play the Whiskey, and they'll pack it out. And they play twice a year or whatever. So
celebratory.
That's my favorite. I don't go out that much, but if I do go to a show, it's usually at the Whiskey. I've been to the Troubadour several times, and that's just not my thing. The Whiskey is a place we always play, and we're actually kicking our tour off. We're playing what the Rainbow's done recently. I don't know if you've been there recently, but they've taken over the parking lot of the Roxy now. So now it's like they have shows back there. So we're playing the Labor Day party. Our tour kicks off on September 4th. So it's like I think Lita Ford's headlining, and so it's Lita Ford, John Five, us, Enough's Enough. The lead singer of the Zeros is on it super early, which I love the Zeros back in the day.
That's cool.
So there's that's kind of like our little kickoff thing for the tour, so that I get to start off right where we're talking about.
Yeah. We should so speaking of tour, you have a new album coming out. I believe it drops October 7th, is that correct?
Yes, I believe
October 7th, brand new album called Horrifier. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about that a little bit. You said that you and you alluded to this a little earlier in the conversation after listening to your fans and whatnot. You had said that you were trying to make Horrifier a little bit different than maybe your last three records. So I wanted to ask you in what way?
Well, I think just, the last three records, we really kind of, if you want to call it, experimented with the sound of it. I mean, I started off, Wednesday 13 was sort of this metal slash kind of punk hybrid sort of thing. First two albums were kind of like that. And then when I got with the San Antonio guys, I started playing with a bunch of guys that could fucking play and do all this cool shit. I'm like, well, let's try this. So we started experimenting and all that. This record, I think the reason it's maybe a little more dialed back to the original is because I wrote a majority of the music. Like I wrote the guitar stuff. And I think that's why, in my mind, it kind of has an earlier Wednesday 13 kind of vibe to it. And maybe less of the metal aspect that's been there for the last couple records. But yeah, man, I think that's been the biggest change was that, for the last few records, I always do all my vocals, but I was letting, Ramon and Jack and everyone else contribute stuff, and kind of bring in a different thing. But I don't know. I just kind of wanted to, kind of go back and go where it kind of started from with a fresh perspective, I guess.
Yeah.
And I had 2 years to go back and look at every style I've done from the beginning to where it was and went, well, what do I like? I don't know if I like that part. I was wearing an apron, looked like Leatherface on that year. I don't know if I like that. You know what I mean? Like I'm just watching stuff and I went, all right, what if I could Frankenstein 20 years of all this and make the special version? And that's kind of what I thought about the record. I thought about the stage show. That's kind of how I've looked at it. Instead of trying to constantly reinvent myself, I went, why don't I just make the super Wednesday Frankenstein? And that's kind of what the record was.
So you kind of had time to sort of analyze your past history and sort of cherry pick the things you like best and sort of slam them all together.
And taking in other people listening to stuff. I mean, I'm not going to do stuff just, because other people like it if I don't like it. I have to like it generally at the core of it all. But I got to listen to it. And when I was talking about the fan club thing I did, when I started writing the record a year ago, we started working on it. I had like a special part of the fan club where they could watch us write and work on the stuff. So this little area I'm sitting in right here, a year ago, they got to watch everything get started for me just working on the riff, so to that little group of fans, they love this album already because they got to see it be made for once. And usually they get to see the album cover and stuff whenever the news comes out.
They got to watch you sketch.
They did. Yeah. They did. And that was, and I got to kind of bounce ideas off of it. I could see, because, sometimes fans I won't say they like anything I do, but I could tell my fans were pretty honest. That little group of fans, I could take it and go, oh, that's a super cool riff. I'm like, all right. 3 people brought that back up a week later. I'm like, all right, because it's stuck in their head. So I took little things like that, and I've never been able to do that before. And I think that sometimes may work better than having a producer maybe tell you what you should do.
Yeah.
Well, everyone should.
The producer's not going to buy your album.
Yeah, exactly. That's amen. I can't top that.
Yeah.
Good one, Dave.
No, you're right. And that's why I didn't have a producer on this album. We did it. I did it all. We did it all ourselves. I was like, look, we're not getting a big record advance. Why are we going to spend every dime and more on recording when I know we can collectively, we're smart enough. We've self-released our stuff in the past. We can do it again.
Yeah.
So we had the COVID break. I just moved to Burbank. Before I moved all of our band gear in here from the last tour, just this cluttered mess behind me. We had a ton of room in here. So we basically just sat out here and worked on it, recorded everything. I did all the vocals in my house and I didn't have a producer. I didn't have an engineer. I recorded everything myself. And I think that was the hardest part, was being my own producer, going, all right, is that good enough? Because I would record a verse, get up the next morning, listen to it, go, fuck, I could do it better. And after I changed it 5 times, I went, all right, you got to quit being so fucking crazy about this. You got to really just, so that was a challenge as well, just being my own producer.
Did you have someone mix? I'm sorry to interrupt. Did you have someone mix it? You were talking about, you keep mentioning doing it yourself, and I that's the only way to go. I really feel that's really a true artist way to go, because your own limitations, and it's not like and there are some artists that sing it one time and go, that's good enough,
Yeah.
And we know that that's not good enough.
Yeah. I am the worst on myself. Like I said, I had to I would have to listen to it, and I would let my girlfriend listen to it,
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, normally I would be fine with if the band was there because we all trust each other. But like I said, most of my band guys weren't here. Ramon was in Europe half the time for COVID. Right. So I was like, I didn't really have anyone to bounce ideas off of. So I literally had to, all right, dude, you gotta trust yourself. You've been doing this for a while. You know what sucks. You know what doesn't. So that was a challenge this time as well.
I don't know
if we went with this guy named Brent Clausen. He had did the maybe 3 or 4 of my albums. Okay. He was in a band with our guitarist Jack, this band called Bullets and Octane. I think they were on the show that you came out and played the Kiss song with us. That's how far back.
Oh, okay. Wow.
I've been working.
All right.
But yeah, he was the bassist in that band. And when we decided we could record this thing all on our own, I was like, we'll just get him to mix it, And so that was everything. He brought his gear over here, set it up. He goes, all right, this is how Pro Tools works. Here's a little cheat sheet. And I went, cool. I'll call you if I got any problems. And I did all my vocals, did everything. I learned how to do it, and great success. I did.
Awesome.
I did.
Good for you. I think I would have gone completely batty and had to commit myself. But it's reminded me of how we got this podcast going, because I mean, I know a little bit. I can press some buttons and shit, and move a microphone around and know how a mixer works. But there was still a lot of training, learning how to I also had to learn. I'm a music teacher. I had to learn how to teach online, and that fucked my head up. But by the time I got it down okay, we were starting this podcast, and we had Dave on the line the whole time. Nope, that's not it yet. We're trying to teach him how to fish. Teach him how to move things around, and I
didn't even know what a webcam was before.
Yeah,
we started this stuff.
He's like, I have friends that are avid watchers of the podcast, and they were like, I was just watching every episode to see Dave's new microphone, because he had a different fucking microphone every episode.
Yeah.
Couldn't figure out.
I was going to show you guys. I have this is basically. I luckily have this piece of dinosaur equipment. This thing right here.
Oh, I love those.
Okay. This is what I've been doing my demos on since 2006.
Okay.
This last year was the first year that I learned how to do Pro Tools from this.
Right.
So I've been all the guys in the band are tell me, dude, you should learn how to do Pro Tools or whatever. It's so much easier. I'm like, no, dude, it's nowhere as easy as this. The reason I was able to do Pro Tools because it's the same stuff.
Yeah, it's just more of a digital on screen. Yeah.
Well, I learned my little cheat thing. So luckily I had so many years learning how to do, I don't even have to, I can do that thing in my sleep. I still hold on to that thing. It has it's probably got 10 years, 15 years worth of songs in it.
Well, a lot of people don't realize there might be that dinosaur that you keep obviously in the trash can at your knees. Yeah.
Yes. Get down, boy. Get down.
Right. That might have this tone that you're looking for later on, that for some reason, how come I can't get this thing? I used to be able to do this thing on this old piece of shit over here. Yeah. Man, let's get that thing happening and plug it in, and you never know. I mean, probably not, but you know what I mean? It's like
that thing is again, it's I'm going to hold on to it. It's been a savior. I've been able to do all my demos. It's just, I don't know why I never stepped up to learning how to do Pro Tools sooner, because it is a lot easier doing like drum beats and stuff. I still don't know how to program a drum machine. I used to buy hit pads, and I would actually, because I can keep a rhythm somewhat. I used to record all the drums. For my first album deal with Roadrunner, I sent them demos of this horrible stuff. I was recording the snare and the kick, and then I would go back and record cymbals. So it was just it wasn't the worst sounding, but
sure,
it got my record deal. It's good enough. They went, that's cool.
Yeah. Right. Don't tell them that don't tell them you found your drummer at Toys R Us. Don't tell them that.
No, I know.
Let's spend a little more time on the new album. The first single is called You're So Hideous.
Yes.
And the video is great. The video, if anyone hasn't seen it, look it up on YouTube. It's called You're So Hideous, and it basically approximates The Exorcist. So you've got this really crazy possessed girl doing the whole role of The Exorcist.
Great in the video, right? The girl is great. Like,
she's amazing.
It's not special effects. She's a contortionist. I saw a video of her on Instagram. The director of the video sent it to me. He goes, I think this girl will be perfect. And I was like, you think?
Yeah.
And then she got there. I was like, oh my God. Like when I saw her, I was like, I don't have to really do anything now. I can just hang back and just be cool. I don't have to worry about because she's going to steal the show. But the thing was, I told the director guy, like, I didn't want to, like, we've all seen The Exorcist or grew up with it. That was just like, my mom was terrified of The Exorcist. Like, she was totally freaked out about it. For some people, that's just a terrifying movie. And then over the years, of course, they made fun of it. The movie Repossessed with Leslie Nielsen and then they did it in Scary Movie. They made fun of the vomit scene. So when we were doing that, I was like, I want to do this, but we can't make it be like the campy. We got to try to make it as serious. Even if you laugh at it a little bit, we got to try to at least keep the vibe of it. And I think we did. I don't think it comes off being like Repossessed or Scary Movie. The vomit scene's a little overdone, but we had to go overboard with that.
I got to see it now. I've got to check it out.
Everyone listening needs to check it out because it almost looks like outtakes from the actual movie. The girl does a really great job, and the lighting is very similar to the movie and everything. It's really cool. And I'm glad you brought up the point about not making it too campy because, you kind of have a reputation as shock rock and theater and all that stuff, but and scary stuff, but there's always been an element of humor in what you do.
Yes.
Tell me how important that is that you integrate some sort of tongue-in-cheek, I guess is maybe the best way to say it, as opposed to going all, black metal, death metal, upside down crosses and, all this other stuff. You kind of keep it light, but still have the dark imagery.
Well, that's kind of what it's always been for me. Like, this is the way, anyone that can look if I took this so serious, I'd have to kick my own ass. You know what I mean? It's like I have to be able to laugh at myself. You know what I mean? I have to, I can't just be like, I'm not Fonzie 24/7. I might have my Fonzie moment on stage, but I'm not like that. And people that walk around, there's a lot of artists that I could name and I'm not, but just a ton of people that just carry that. And you're like, dude, really? Let that wall down. So I've always showed people that my sense of humor and I'm the horror movie guy, but people always ask me like, if I could compare my personality to any character, the closest thing is probably Beetlejuice, because Beetlejuice had both elements. He was funny, and then when he had to scare the fuck out of those people at that house at the end, he did. You know what I mean? So it was kind of like, and that's been my perfect balance. I like to make people laugh and also make them vomit at the same time. It's like goes hand in hand.
Yeah, that's great. That's
Wednesday 13, the party monster, right?
Yeah.
I love the party ghost. Yeah,
I love the Beetlejuice analogy.
But that's the best way to explain it, because it's like he's the only character that could walk that line of doing that.
Yeah. Now, having said all that, there is a song on the new album called "The Other Side" that is from my understanding, it's a little more personal to you. I think it's dedicated to your mother. Maybe you're digging a little deep and sharing some of your soul on that song. Tell us a little bit about that song.
Yeah. The good thing about, like I was saying, over the years, I've been able to experiment with different stuff. I'm not constantly singing about horror movies and stuff, but one thing that always you can sing about that fits right in is death. And over the past 2 years, with the COVID lockdown and stuff, I had so many people around me pass away, and it wasn't from COVID. Like my mom passed away suddenly in 2020. Joey Jordison passed away suddenly, last year. Alexi from Children of Bodom passed away 6 months before him. My one of my nephews passed away from cancer. His twin brother was in a car accident and lost his daughter. I had so much just madness within my family and friends for those 2 years. It was, that was a really hard part, is getting my mind focused on writing. But when Ramon brought that music for that song, The Other Side, on when he played it for me, lyrically, at first I had the melody in my head, but like when I started piecing all this stuff together, I'm like, I need some therapy from this. I'm going to write a song about it. So I took that opportunity to write that song about that, and it works. It works within our world, even though it's more of a serious song. It still fits.
Yeah. And we recently had Mike Monroe on, and there was a similar case. He's Mike Monroe 90%, but there's a few moments on his record where he's talking about something personal, and it's like, you don't think about that. You just think about Mike Monroe being a madman and singing all these party rock and roll and these situational, funny, dispositions lyrically, and then there's this moment where he's taking a break from all that and being serious, and I think that you have to. Yeah, you have to.
It's scary to put those kind of songs out. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure I've known Mike for years too, and he's a good friend.
Amazing.
Probably the best front guy I've ever seen. But it's sometimes it's scary to come out of your shell like that. For some people. For some people, they would never. I've wrote songs in the past that were personal, and some people maybe didn't even know about it. But this one's pretty obvious, and I talk about it in the press and stuff as well. But I've just been really lucky to have music's always been that outlet to fill that void of that. If I can't talk to anybody, I can sing about it. And then now I can get a reaction because, like I said, I wrote that song about my mom. I wrote it about Joey as well. But Joey was the first person that had ever in my life had someone like that had passed away that everyone else around the world knew who he was. Mm-hmm. No one knew my mom but me, but like when Joey passed away, it was just like my social media, and it's still to this day. I mean, I can't scroll without seeing a picture of him every 4 or 5 pictures, so that was just so this song as well, I kind of did it for me to heal, and I think some of the fans will be able to listen to that song and hopefully have some closure or something with that as well. So I don't know, that was my experiment. That was my one thing that's a little different on this record, I guess.
That's cool. That's cool. You're an artist, so you kind of dabble with your emotions from time to time, and that's what artists do.
Yeah, there's feelings down here. God damn it, there's feelings behind this.
The LP version of the album comes with a Ouija board. Is that correct?
There's a limited edition version. The label's been really cool, and they came up with the idea of they were like, hey, would you want to do like a Ouija board? I'm like, would I? I think it's limited to like 500. There's a version with the Ouija board and the album cover, everything. I'm a musician or an artist that likes the art to be a huge part. I mean, and Jason, your Dangerous Toys artwork, how big was that for you guys?
It was 50%. The band's okay, but look at this fucking album cover.
That's the kind of album cover that every time I make an album cover, I always think about walking in the store, seeing stuff like that, seeing an Iron Maiden album cover, seeing Dangerous Toys. That was a crazy fucking album cover, So I wanted this album cover to kind of have that. And then we put the physical product out. We make it worth your while because people are just so busy streaming and downloading stuff now. It's like, hey, look, you get a Ouija board with this. Come on.
Yeah.
What are you waiting?
So that leads to my next question. We got about 10 more minutes, and I got so much I want to cover. But I wanted to ask you on the subject of the Ouija board, have you ever had any weird experiences with a Ouija board?
I've never really messed with them, and I don't really want to. With my luck, I'll stir up something and it'll just be something else. I'm gonna have to pay later on down the road. So no, I don't really mess with those.
You have to believe in that shit for some shit to come get you.
Yeah.
You have to believe it.
I did back in 2007 or 8. Kerrang! Magazine did a piece. They took me and several other people out to this haunted castle in Newcastle, and we did like a little seance. And this place where they had there was like a mortuary, and either way, 2 hours into this whole thing, and there was some weird stuff going on. You were standing in the dark and people were talking weird shit. You kind of freak yourself out. But we were down in the basement, and we had like this table, and it wasn't a Ouija board, but we were doing we had like a glass on a table. We were doing it like you do on the Ouija board, back and forth. And remember, we were all kind of standing around it, and the glass was there, and nobody had their hands there, and the glass just went right off the table and just smashed. Wow. And that's when everybody goes, "I'm out of here." And I was like, "I'm out of here." Like, it was, I have no explanation for that. There was nobody trying to be magician. I don't think anybody was trying to freak us out. I could tell that the guy that was hosting it and being the talker, he was kind of freaked out too.
Yeah. Wow. So that makes it kind of cool.
Yeah.
No one got hurt.
Nobody got hurt, but yeah, it was like a little small table, and the glass, they were just kind of using it. Everyone kind of had their fingers on it. They were kind of moving it around, and we all let go, and then it just, when the guy asked if anyone was here, it smashed.
Wow.
I don't know. He could have been really cool, and it went smack.
Yeah.
I didn't see it. I was watching it, and
you didn't see the fishing line tied to the.
I was looking for it. I'm always looking for that stuff.
Looking for the fishing line, yeah.
Always.
Let's spend a couple minutes on the Murderdolls. I have to admit, that's the first time you came on my radar. I had the album Beyond the Valley of the Murderdolls. And so two questions. One is, why did the band break up after 2 albums? Because it seemed to me, as an outsider, that you had a certain amount of momentum going. And number two, I wanted to ask, what was it like to work with Mick Mars on the second album?
Murderdolls, unfortunately, was just a victim of being a side project. Like, Slipknot is such a huge band and such a huge operation. No matter how successful Murderdolls was, it was never going to be anywhere close to Slipknot, and when that operation starts going, they don't just go out for a show here or there. It's like, we're going out for 2.5 years. So every time the first album, we didn't know if it was going to do anything or not. And it was successful. We made fans.
Yeah.
But I remember the label telling Joey and telling Corey Taylor, like, your Stone Sour project and Murderdolls is taking a break. We're not going to do anything to promote it. It's Slipknot from this point on. And that's kind of how they looked at it. And then I think when I started doing the Wednesday stuff, Joey, I don't think he was happy with me doing that. So we didn't talk for a couple of years. And then Corey Taylor started doing Stone Sour, and they got a hit, and they went, "Oh, well, we can juggle this." And then Murderdolls finally got back together to do the second album in 2010. And that one, the label was excited. They liked the song. They were pushing it. They were promoting it. And right into recording it, the bass player, Paul from Slipknot, died. Right in the middle of it. And that just shook everything up. And then it was, well, now we got to do a Slipknot Paul tribute tour. So that took Murderdolls off from being that. So then it was, oh, well, we're going to come back to Murderdolls in 1.5 years. And I'm like, look, I'm just going to do my own thing. Yeah. It's kind of hard to commit. You get to top of the mountain and just get thrown off. I'm like, fuck. So that's kind of how it was, and it was always just a fight. Had we didn't have something like that, like Slipknot involved, we probably would have stayed together and had a ton of records. But at the same time, we wouldn't have had the attention we had it not been a side project of Slipknot, because everybody's eyes was on that. It was like Kiss being unmasked. Everybody wanted to see what they looked like, and Murderdolls was the first look of one guy from that band, and we instantly had eyes on us, and places were packed. We did 2 weeks of shows in the States in the very beginning, and then we were playing with Guns N' Roses in Japan. Like, it was just instant stuff. 6 weeks, wow. Iron Maiden, main support because of Slipknot. It's so yeah. And to answer your Mick Mars question, it was fucking awesome working with him. He's so cool. He came in and he looked just like you'd see him on stage with Motley right now. Top hat. Someone told me I looked like I was wearing a Mick Mars Halloween costume a couple months ago. Looked like this. And then got his platforms on, girlfriend carrying his guitar. We sat down, started telling really dirty jokes, and he's like, "Cool, I get along with you guys. Let's go." And we walked out because we were recording in the studio, and then right next to it was a house we were like staying at. It was just cheaper than getting hotels. So we came in, hung out for a bit. We went out in the studio, and he had worked on the 2 songs. He had some ideas, and the weirdest thing was he set up 2 whammy pedals and was working on like a double bass. I've never seen anybody do that before.
Standing on them?
No, he was just, you know how someone would like sit in a chair and work a wah-wah pedal?
Yeah.
He was working 2. Like a drummer would work a double pedal.
Like one at a time, foot on this one, get it where he likes it, put it on another one.
No, he was doing
like a double kick.
Left and right as he played.
One foot on each one. Wow, yeah. That's crazy, man.
In like 70s platforms, like the Murderdolls, like got the separated hill.
Now that's talent.
Well, it was something. it was a lot of noise. I don't know. We recorded that part, but yeah, he was fun. He came in. He was letting everybody play this Motley guitar. He was doing all the Kickstart My Heart whammy stuff. We were all geeking out on it. So, but no, he came in. We worked for, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours and talked him through the parts he did on the record. And it was super cool. That was like getting Ace Frehley to come play on something for me. That was a cool thing. And he was such a cool dude, and he was humble, and he treated us great. And so yeah, that's another one on my list of awesome things I got to do.
That's amazing.
Cool. Was his paycheck, would you say? I mean, obviously it was worth it because it was like, it was dreamy. But did he? I mean, did he come in and did he come do you a solid, or did you have the label or management contact him?
It was literally we had a guy that was kind of being our tour manager, our house mom that took care of us. We were recording the record. We were basically writing that song "Drug Me to Hell," and we were trying to figure out some lead stuff. And I was trying some lead guitar stuff, and I was like, I don't know, man, this song's just got a Mick Mars vibe to me on it. And we were fucking around with it. And the tour manager guy, Sully, goes, well, why don't you just fucking get him to come play on it? I'll call him. And I went, yeah, whatever. And he goes, fuck you. And literally, it was that quick, and he was there like 2 days later.
That's how quick. On the spot.
But this guy also used to tour manage Motley Crue, so he knew everybody.
Oh, okay.
So another reason I think
he had it. You had
another reason Mick was so comfortable. Yeah. Mick was comfortable with him.
Man, that's great.
So that was that. It was literally that quick. It was kind of like a bullshit.
That's like inner circle shit right there, man.
That's amazing. It was that quick. And we didn't live that far. We were recording up in like the Hollywood Hills. He didn't live that far away.
Oh man, that's perfect.
So, yeah,
you guys were his entertainment for the evening.
He loved it.
Yeah,
he loved it.
That's awesome. That makes it real, dude.
I want to ask one. I don't want to end on a dark note, but I do want to ask you, Wednesday. I know Joey Jordison's passing just shocked the world. I don't think that the world at large was not aware of any sort of health issues or anything, unless I'm missing something. I mean, was the news as much of a shock to you as an insider as it was to everyone else, or were you aware of some underlying health conditions or other something else that might have contributed to his passing at such a young age?
Honestly, I don't know if I don't know anything of him being in bad health. Like when I saw him, I know he had his health problems that he had talked about online over the past couple of years. But as far as that being anything that was like, putting him toward death or anything, I don't think anybody had that type of expectations. But he was just, like I said, no one had been in touch with him at all. So when we all heard, it was all a shock. I think he had recently just split up with his girlfriend, so he may have been living by himself for the first time for a long time. No one mentioned COVID. No one. I have no idea. It was literally just he died in his sleep, and that's the news they've given to everybody. I hope that it's that simple and it was that easy for him to go out and just, peaceful. But I have no idea. I have no idea what was going on with him. And everybody, when he passed, I had so many people reach out to me like, what happened? I'm like, I don't know. A lot of people thought that he and I spoke constantly. That's how much I don't know anybody that he was in touch with. Like he was really like a recluse. So I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever find out exactly other than just what they said. And that's probably all we're ever going to hear.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I appreciate you at least taking a shot at that question. I know it's not easy.
Wednesday, thank you very much for hanging out with us. We really appreciate you. You're a solid guy. You've always been a solid guy. Do you remember one last trick? Do you remember Jim Florentine handing you the phone? You guys were on site. It might have been the Murderdolls. Jim Florentine calls me. I go, Jim, what's up? He goes, hey, the Murderdolls are here. They want to say hi. Here you go. He hands you guys the phone. And I'm like, who the fuck are these guys? That was a trip. True. I was just like, wow. And and you guys were on my radar after that. I was just like, I got to check these dudes out. I just talked to them on the phone. I should check them out. So, interesting.
Jim Florentine, another great guy that's connected me with people. He's such a good
best.
Dude.
He's the best guy, man.
Yeah.
I get some mornings when I wake up, like on tour, and after I've been singing for like a week, and I get up, like I just do my Florentine. My voice is so deep. It's like, fucking Jack. I can't do it right now, but like I do it. I get it so good. Like I tell the guys, I go, turn around, don't look at me, and I'll go, coming up on that metal show. Take it away. Like intros. I get this whole Florentine thing. I can't wait till I see him next time so I can embarrass myself.
Do it. So, I think I'm seeing him this weekend at that Monsters on the Mountain thing.
Well, tell him I said hello and I miss him.
I will. Wednesday, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. You were awesome, man. We didn't even get to talk about Frankenstein Drag Queens or Maniac Spider Trash or at Gunfire 76. I had that record. I love it.
We'll bring you back on for a second edition.
Yeah, we got lots. I'm old. We got hours of talking about. We got to talk about Land of the Law.
Yes.
Different Strokes when they brought a little red-haired kid in.
Yes, please.
If you're old, then me and Jason are dead. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, because you've got a long way to go, bro.
If you're old, then I'm dead. That's the new shirt.
That's a good one, right?
There you go.
All right.
Yeah. Wednesday, thank you so much for your time. We wish you continued success. Best of luck on the new album, Horrifier. It drops October 7, everyone. On behalf of my co-host, Jason McMaster, I'm Metal Dave, along with our special guest today, Wednesday 13 on the Talk Louder podcast. Like the shoe prankster. Try it out, kids.